Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here and welcome back to another video for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about some of the lesser known, more subtle mechanics hidden in game that you might not know about. See, Breath of the Wild is a massive game with no shortage of stuff to do, plenty of space to explore and tons of different ways to play and approach your encounters. But at the same time, there are also loads of subtle gameplay mechanics that aren't explained to you, and you're simply left to discover them on your own. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys 10 things you probably didn't know about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. If you do enjoy this video, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any questions, and also let me know how many of these you did or didn't know already. Now, kicking things off with number 10, using a wooden shield to collect arrows. If you're ever fighting against an archer type enemy, you probably try and snipe them out quickly to stop them calling for help. Good move. However, in the event you're running low on arrows, there's actually a really easy way to use said enemy to fill your arrow pouch. Sure, you can look around on the ground for any shots that missed and maybe pick up the occasional single arrow. However, if you have a wooden shield and you simply sit there blocking, you'll notice that every arrow that hits gets stuck in your shield. Once you've done this for long enough, if you put your shield away, i.e. on your back, you will immediately gather the arrows that were stuck in it. But, just to be clear, this only works with wooden shields. Metal shields, as I'm sure you can imagine, simply bounce the arrows off, which is also why this mechanic will be a little less useful the further you progress in the game once you start picking up metal shield left, right and centre. But knowing this, it might be worth hanging on to a wooden shield from time to time. Moving on to number 9, burning grass to create an updraft. If you're ever in a situation where you're presented with an area you want to get to but perhaps can't climb, or maybe you can climb but you want a little boost to get you started, did you know that you can burn grass and use the updraft from the heat to lift yourself with your glider? If you look around for any long grass, it doesn't have to be that brown dry grass. Sure, that stuff does burn better, but this works with pretty much anything. Set it alight with a couple of fire arrows and look above the flames and you'll see the updraft wind effect. Simply jump over the flames, pull out your glider, and you'll sail up with the wind. Do this in just the right place and it might well help give you that leg up that you needed to begin that climb or reach that hard to access area. Then in at number 8, swimming faster with no armor. In truth, when you think about this outside the context of a game, it makes complete sense, right? If you try and swim with a load of heavy armor, it's going to weigh you down. Well, that also applies in Zelda. When swimming with normal gear on, doesn't matter what, you will swim at this pace. But if you take your clothes off, you'll swim faster, like this. Don't notice the difference? Well, how about when we look at it side by side? Sure, it might not be a drastic difference, but early on in the game, when your stamina is low and perhaps you need to swim a little bit further, then simply remove your armor and you might just make it. I also tested removing weapons, that doesn't seem to make a difference, so for convenience, just drop the clothes. Next up, number 7, shield surfing tricks. Okay, so this one isn't really useful per se, it's more for fun, but you can actually perform a few simple tricks whilst shield surfing. Now, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here, hopefully you are all aware that you can surf on your shield. The game teaches you this much. Hold up your shield, jump and press A, and you'll begin to surf. It's an incredibly useful way to get around when you're presented with a downhill slope. However, while you're surfing, you can press the jump button. For me, that is B because I swapped it, but for some of you, that'll be Y. Pressing the jump button allows you to hop, but if you combine that jump button with a direction, there are a few simple tricks you can do. Left or right will see you grab the board like so, and back or forward like so. Nothing crazy, no like 1080 kickflips or something like that, but it's still cool. Plus, you can also jump off a ledge, press jump to bring out your glider, and you'll notice your shield is still attached to your feet. You can then drop from the glider at any point and continue to surf. Pretty cool. Then after that, in at number 6, last ditch climbing. Climbing is something you will do a lot in this game. It's pretty awesome, to be honest, the sense of freedom and ability to virtually go where you please. But again, early on you only have a single stamina wheel, so you are somewhat limited. I'm sure you've all been presented with that situation where you weigh up whether you should try and jump, in turn using more stamina but covering more ground, or play the long game and just climb slowly. Only to realise that even then you're still not quite going to make it. However, did you know that if you jump while climbing in the final red portion of your stamina bar, you actually cover double the distance? A sort of last ditch attempt to make that final climb, if you will. Here's the distance of a normal jump, and here's the distance of a last ditch jump. Putting them side by side, you can see the distance is actually pretty impressive. So, if you're climbing and nearing the end of the summit, then make sure you save your last jump for the red portion of stamina, and it should help you out quite a bit. After that, moving on to number 5, temporary fire immunity. This one is actually pretty hard to demonstrate, and in truth, it's going to have very limited utility. But again, early on in the game, when you don't have fireproof gear, then if you stand in flames, you'll get burned. I mean, that's obvious, right? I don't need to tell you that. However, if you happen to have just been swimming and you're then drenched in water, if you then go from there to standing in flames, for a very short period of time, you'll be immune. This is honestly only going to be the difference of a few seconds, but you never know, knowledge like this might just come in handy one day. Next up, in at number 4, riding wild animals. There are loads of animals that share the world with you. Stags, deer, bears, rhino-like creatures, etc. However, there are a couple of those that you can ride, namely deer and bears. Now, in order to pull this off, you're going to need more than just one stamina wheel. So if you're early game, then you can snag a free stamina wheel by sleeping in one of those expensive beds, usually the ones that cost you 80 rupees. That'll give you a temporary yellow stamina wheel. Also worth noting that these wild animals startle easily, so you're definitely going to have to sneak up on them. I always use my stealth gear for this, but if you get close enough, you'll be presented with the mount prompt, just like you would a horse. Calm it down in the same way, and you'll then be able to ride it around. This also applies to bears too, although bears can be quite dangerous, so approach them with the utmost caution. Now unfortunately, you can't register any of these at the stable. When you take it back, they'll tell you that they can only register horses, which is pretty sad. It's also worth noting that if you ride these for too long, they will start to go wild again, so when that happens, you'll need to soothe them again, and of course if you're lacking the stamina, then they're going to kick you off. And the second you jump off, they will also run away. So they're not exactly the most useful thing in the world. They're also slower than most horses, but if you're out in the wild and you need a ride, then know that these are an option. You also can't register stall horses either, nor can you register the Lord of the Mountain. So yeah, these are definitely just for fun. Moving on from there to number 3, using dogs to find treasure. If you ever stumble across a dog, usually located around outposts or towns, they can actually lead you directly to a treasure chest that usually contains a useful item. In order to do this, you first need to feed the dog fruit. Drop 3 or 4 fruit pieces in front of the dog, one at a time of course, giving him a chance to eat it each time, and once you've done that, the dog will begin walking off. If you follow it, it'll lead you directly to a chest that is typically located nearby. Use your magnesis rune to pull it out of the ground, open it up, and reap your rewards. Then, next up, number 2, refreshing rusted weapons. Again, early on in the game, you will likely encounter your fair share of rusted weapons. They show up a fair bit around the Hylian ruins and Hyrule Field, and while they're not great, they are at least something to tide you over. However, did you know, you can actually refresh these weapons and turn them from rusted into their former selves. If you ever encounter an Octorok, you will know that they do one of two things. They either pop out the water and fire a pinpoint accurate rock at your head, honestly how do they never miss, or the other one is that they inhale for a bit, kind of like Kirby, and they then spit something back at you. This is often where you feed it a bomb and then laugh as you detonate it from inside. However, if you throw a rusted weapon at it while it's inhaling, it'll actually swallow it, chew it up, clean it, and spit it back out. So take this rusted claymore as an example. This is what it looks like before. Then after the Octorok cleaning service is finished with it, it then looks like this. Pretty handy, right? And then finally, in at number 1, following shooting stars to reveal star fragments. Star fragments are an item that are pretty useful either for particular recipes or for upgrading your gear later in game, but they're also pretty rare. However, if you're ever roaming around at night and you see a shooting star in the sky, if you watch where it goes and pay attention to where it lands, it'll actually lead you directly to a star fragment. Now in this situation, rather annoyingly, I didn't actually have a recording of the shooting star in the sky, but what I can show you is this. See that yellow beacon? That is not a marker that I have placed, that is what a shooting star that's landed looks like. So it's pretty damn obvious, I'm sure you'll agree. And you can also see it from a fair distance too. So if you ever see a star in the sky, once it lands, this is what you're looking for. Head over to it, and voila! 1 free star fragment. Super useful. And that, my friends, is pretty much it. Those were 10 useful tips that you probably, maybe, didn't know about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. However, there is one more thing I want to show you guys, and this is just a load of fun. There is actually some utility behind it, and that is to use Octo Balloons. Again, going back to our good old friend, the Octoroks, when you kill them, they drop the Octo Balloons. And this is an item that sometimes you might sell, you might use for other things, but if you read the description, it also says that if you hold it, you can attach it to items. And there is a lot of stuff you can do with this. One such option is to make a bomb, drop it on the floor, put an Octo Balloon on it, and then let the wind carry the bomb into your target. Detonate it when you want, and you have a rather interesting aerial bomb. Alternatively, if you want to turn a raft into a flying raft, I haven't yet been able to master the flying, but you can also attach them to this. Of course, do bear in mind that if you attach one, it's going to suddenly imbalance it, so you might want to use your stasis to then freeze it in place, give you a chance to place some balloons, and then hope that you got your balance correct. Again, just another example of how much stuff there is to mess around with in this game. Take the time to play with things, poke it, have fun, and you can really get some good results. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, hopefully you learned something new, and if you did, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any more tips that I didn't cover in this video, and be sure to check out my other Zelda and Switch coverage on the channel. Thanks for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.